Welcome to fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I hope y'all are having a lovely day. Hello, Jesse. How are you?
I'm doing great, Margaret. It's we had just had picture day today for our office, so I'm all dressed up.
Oh, nice. You gonna take like the big company photo?
Yeah, we went out in the lawn and we got all set up and took our photos.
Nice. I'm trying to think, when was the last time? The problem is RCC is so scattered, and also fmtraining.tv is so scattered across like the US and a couple different countries. I
Yeah,
don't,
that would be
getting
tough.
it would be hard to do a company photo.
That would be
Uh,
tough.
but
We're
cool.
mostly in Atlanta. We've got my brother Sam in San Francisco, but he's here visiting, so it was the perfect chance.
Oh, is he visiting? Oh, I was
Yes.
about to ask you about it before the stream started. But other than me catching up with Jesse, who I've known since I was like a small child, actually, I remember talking to you and Sam a lot at like a DevCon when I was
Yes.
13.
Yes.
Yes. And then your brother was crazy because I talked to him about some book I was working on. He asked me about it when I was 18, when I saw him again 5 years later, because he remembered, and I was like,
Oh my gosh.
he's
He's
great.
still pretty crazy.
Yes, that it's still insane. Anyway, 360 Works is fantastic. Other than my fond childhood memories, 360 Works is fantastic. They do a lot of work for the FileMaker community. It is a pleasure to have Jesse on here as always. Basically, they do a lot of really important plugins. As a general rule, RCC has always been like it. We use plugins for sure. We highly recommend them, but we pick specific plugins that we know for a fact work. And 360 Works plugins work. They do a lot of fantastic stuff. They cover a wide variety of problems that you want to solve. The problem we're talking about today is a common one. We had a kind of a day one on the sort of stuff that was added to it with MirrorSync 7, but MirrorSync basically allows you to have a offline FileMaker database that can sync back with a database on a server, so you can have up-to-date information when you get access to internet, but also have an offline database that works so you don't have access to internet. It also allows for some other like major things. I'm forgetting the exact word, but it allows you to I keep multiple like FileMaker traditionally, I think, stops working at around what 1,000 users. I want to say is that when like it has like its max when it begins struggling. Not 1,000 users. You know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
right?
you're talking about clustering where you can set up multiple
Yes.
FileMaker servers and have MirrorSync kind of share the load across all of them, which we've
Yes.
done live demos with Richard to kind of demonstrate that.
I'll have to find those. But yeah, MirrorSync can also do that, which is insanely cool. Basically, it takes up the how much can FileMaker handle and amplifies it substantially.
Yeah.
With that all being said, Jesse, what are we doing today?
What I'm going to be talking about today is I was on a few days ago, I think last week, actually, last
Mm-hmm.
Friday, and I
Yes.
talked about what is new in MirrorSync 7. And I showed a lot of new stuff. I showed the speed differences, and I showed kind of like demos of a lot of syncing stuff. I showed inserting, updating, deleting, resolving conflicts, that kind of stuff. What I didn't show, and I'm going to focus on today, is the actual setup process. I kind of just skipped over all of that. So today we're kind of going to loop back to the beginning and say, okay, that's really cool, that stuff, but how do we do it? And so I'm going to really kind of just take this from scratch. I'm going to download MirrorSync. I'm going to install it. I'm going to set it up with a new FileMaker starter template, and then I'm going to do the same setup with FM starting point. So this is going to be just a real basic overview of like how do you if you should watch this video if you want to know if you just want like a step-by-step tutorial of how to install and configure MirrorSync. If you've already done that before and we're not going to cover advanced tips and tricks or anything like that. So this is a great video for those who are new to MirrorSync and who are curious about how to set it up in their own solution.
Yes. If you saw MirrorSync 7 last Friday and was like, oh, I need some of those features. Some of those new features are very cool. Or any, frankly, of the basic features it does that are very cool, then you definitely want to watch this.
I got
So,
a very nice feedback today from one of our hosting clients who's like, "Oh my God, the downloading the clones is so fast."
ooh,
Um, yeah,
nice.
so yeah, we're getting good feedback on it. So I'm going to start by just getting MirrorSync. So I'm going to go to mirrorsync.com,
Mm-hmm.
which is just taking me to 360works.com. And then I'm going to say what's new, price or buy. I'm going to click here. And this is, like I said, I just want to do this as if I had never used MirrorSync before. So I'm going to say new to MirrorSync. I'm going to get a license key. This is our pricing page. MirrorSync comes with a certain number of configurations. Read that as basically databases.
Mm-hmm.
MirrorSync comes for free with support for syncing one FileMaker database. There's an additional cost if you want to sync more than one FileMaker database. It comes for free with one FileMaker device. It could be FileMaker Pro running on a laptop or desktop. It could be FileMaker Go running on an iPad or iPhone. Either way, you get one device for free with MirrorSync, and that's not a trial, it's not a demo, it's not limited, it's a full-blown copy of MirrorSync, and that might be all you need if you just have one person that wants to use MirrorSync.
Which is very cool, by the way. So it means that you can all follow on today.
Yeah, yeah. There's anybody watching this can do this right now and get a full-fledged version of MirrorSync and install it and have access to all the features in MirrorSync and pay nothing.
Which
So,
is cool. I have a quick
yeah,
question from the audience already. Maybe
yeah.
we'll
Oh,
get
that's
interrupted
great.
more than you think.
And I'm glad that somebody's beating me to the punch because I was remiss in saying I love questions. I think we're going to have plenty of time. I don't think this is going to take me that long to show off today what I'm doing. So lots of time for Q&A. If anybody has questions, please jump in.
Yes. MirrorSync works with FM Pro, Windows, Mac, and Go, and I'll add Linux to that collection. Uh,
Yes,
so
yes. It works with Mac and Windows on the client. It works with Mac, Windows, and Linux on the server. It requires FileMaker. We've tested it with FileMaker 19 and later, and it works great. FileMaker Server 19 and later.
mhm.
Tested on FileMaker Pro Client 19 or later. It may work on FileMaker 18, but we don't test it that way, and I don't recommend that you run FileMaker 18. There's some serious bugs that you should really upgrade to a newer version of FileMaker.
Yes, and security concerns and all that jazz. And
Yes,
FileMaker 18 is now many, many, many years old. I have to go
it
look
is.
and see when it was launched. So,
So I'm just going to, just like anybody else would, a MirrorSync server license, quantity 1, price is 0, so this is free. Um, Let me put in my stuff here. This is my email address. You guys are welcome to send me an email. And that's all I need to do here, process my order. And so now here's my license key. Here's a registered to name. Um, I'll get an email with this information as well. I'm going to download this. MirrorSync is fairly small. It's 86 megabytes, so it's a lot smaller than FileMaker Server. Let's take a look here. So this is what I get.
mhm.
And I'm just going to run the installer. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to run the Mac installer. Now I'm going to set a username and password that I'll use to administer MirrorSync.
Mhm.
This doesn't need to match anything. Some people will use the same credentials as their FileMaker Server admin, but you don't have to. Whatever you feel like.
Good old 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm busted. Um,
I've done the exact same thing for stuff like demos. It makes perfect sense. We had to
yeah,
change some of our passwords on databases because it was causing problems.
easy to remember. Um, so I do have MirrorSync already installed in here, but I mean the steps are all the same. It's just warning me, hey, you've already got a version of MirrorSync installed. It's the same as the one you're installing. Do you want to go ahead? So I'm going to say, yeah, let's go ahead.
Will it override the old version of MirrorSync, or
It
we'll just put?
will.
Okay.
It will. And by the way, on that topic, whenever we release a new version of MirrorSync, sometimes people think they need to uninstall the old version and then reinstall the new one. That's not necessary. You can just run the installer over the old one, and it's very quick and easy. So that is
Nifty.
very easy and upgrade process. So this is the page that you get after you install MirrorSync. This confirms that it's installed and then it's working. I'm going to copy this URL in my browser. You'll see why in just a second. And I'm going to download the MirrorSync configuration client, which is a desktop application that you use to set up your configuration. Um, Here's my download. And let me point out that this you can run this desktop application from anywhere. I happen to be running it on the same computer, so I'm doing everything on one computer. This one laptop is my FileMaker server. It's my MirrorSync server. It's where I'm doing my MirrorSync configuration. It's also where I'm going to be doing my client like demonstration testing in FileMaker Pro. But these can all be different things. Like you can install MirrorSync on a Linux box and then configure it with this application I'm about to show you from a separate Windows or Mac box, whatever you want to do. So there's no requirement that you be on the same computer that you're doing everything on. So I'm going to paste in that URL that I copied from up here. That's what it's asking me for here is what's the server address. It's the same thing that I have in my browser. And then I'm going to enter the same credentials that I put in when I installed MirrorSync. So now I get to here. The only thing I don't have to do that because I've done it before is I've already entered my license key from a previous run. So I don't, normally this would pop up saying, put in your license key, and it would be this right here was my license key, but I'm going to hide that for now because I've already done that step. So now I'm going to leave MirrorSync for a second, and I'm going to switch over to FileMaker because I want to have something to sync with. So I'm going to create Um, and I don't actually usually do this when I'm demonstrating MirrorSync because there are some steps that are minorly tedious, but I just want to do this totally from scratch so
Hmm.
everyone can see like, every single step. So
Works for me.
yep, I'm going to create a new file here. Oh, I didn't mean to pick blank. Let me delete that. Let's create a new, I like using the starter solutions. I'll go with tasks. Doesn't, we can do anything we want. Um, I'll save this in my demo folder. All right, so here's a new empty FileMaker starter solution kit. Let's just create a few things so we can see what's going on. All right, so now I've got some tasks and we want to give ourselves a password so we can host it. And I'll do that in a second. We do want to make sure we enable the FM REST privilege set. Uh,
Okay.
if you don't enable that, you won't see your database in the MirrorSync configuration. There, we do have a little dialog saying, be sure to go in and check this with a screenshot telling you where to go. But this is helpful if you just do this right away, is to enable the FM REST privilege set. Okay. So now I've got this database. It's local right now. I'm going to put it up
Hmm.
on FileMaker Server. You do need FileMaker Server to set up MirrorSync. One question that we get every now and then is, can I set up MirrorSync without FileMaker Server? And the answer is no, not if you want to use FileMaker Pro or Go. You do need to have FileMaker Server running somewhere. We don't sync directly between like one copy of FileMaker Pro and another copy of FileMaker Pro. So I will go ahead and host this on FileMaker Server.
That's interesting. Oh, no, it never occurred to me, but I can see why people would ask that.
Yeah, yeah. I think back in the old days when peer-to-peer sharing was a bigger thing in FileMaker Pro, I think more people were trying to run FileMaker without server. But I
Hmm.
think nowadays server is the right way to go for just about everything.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and upload my file.
While it's being uploaded, does this work with the FileMaker Developer Subscription FDS version of Server?
I'm not running that myself, so I can't say for certain, but I'm pretty sure it will. I believe that the FDS subscription lets you do the data API and the admin API, which are the main ingredients that we need from FileMaker Server. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that will work.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I was aware, the FDS server is like a full version of FileMaker Server. You just have limited connections, right?
Yeah, yeah. So yes, I see no reason at all why that shouldn't work. I haven't personally tested it that way, but I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure it's going to be fine.
Got it.
So here's my hosted database. Should have all my test tasks that I created in there. Um, so now I am going to jump back to now. So let's describe what we're trying to accomplish now. We want to take this database that is already hosted on FileMaker Server. I'll assume that that's where most of the people watching this video are right now. You've
Hmm.
got your own database. It's already hosted on FileMaker Server. You hopefully have a privilege set that has the FM REST extended privilege enabled. And now you say, I want to be able to take a copy of this database with me on my laptop or my phone or my iPad and be able to have an offline copy and do bidirectional syncs with it. So that's what we're going to proceed with now. So we're jumping back to our MirrorSync config client, and we're going to create a new configuration. And we support FileMaker Pro to FileMaker Server. We support FileMaker Pro to non-FileMaker Server, which is an interesting thing that we touched on Friday in our last session, is syncing FileMaker Pro or Go directly with MySQL, Salesforce, DynamoDB, Oracle, SQL Server, or any JDBC compatible database. I know I just finished saying you need FileMaker Server, and you do need FileMaker Server for this configuration process. But once the configuration process is done, you can actually sync FileMaker client with non-FileMaker Server databases. You need FileMaker Server just to do the setup, but not for the actual syncing if you decide to sync with some other database. So I'm going to call this configuration tasks. I can call it anything I want. And so what is my hub database? So MirrorSync uses the term hub and spoke. You have one hub and then one or more spokes. In this case, my hub is FileMaker Server, but we support a bunch of different databases here as hubs. And we've also got this JDBC database option so that even if you don't see your database in this list, like for instance, PostgreSQL, that's probably we should add its own separate icon because we have a lot of people using Postgres. But with Postgres, you just pick this generic JDBC database option and you fill in all your JDBC connection information here. So it'll work with any JDBC compatible database plus these things.
Cool. That's good to know, actually.
So I'm using FileMaker Server. My SSL certificate, I'm going to pick this thing here. MirrorSync FileMaker Server machines are the same or different. It's actually all in the same box, but I'm going to pick different because my SSL certificate is in a different name. So I picked that just so that MirrorSync won't get errors about SSL certificates not matching.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to put in my database credentials for the tasks database. I'm going to put in my FileMaker Server admin credentials. And those admin credentials, by the way, the reason we ask for your admin credentials is MirrorSync has a built-in feature to download a copy of the database so that it makes it very simple and easy to get a copy for each of your offline users. And so by having that server admin credential, that gives us the permissions to go get a copy of the database from the database server. And again, a list of my databases. I have a bunch of tests that I do, so I've got a bunch of stuff on here. Here's the tasks database that I just uploaded. Now, if you didn't see your database in the list, you can click My Database is not in this list, and that's where we tell you to turn on the FM REST extended privilege set. But I do
That
have,
makes sense.
yeah. So I'm going to pick that here. And this error is normal because I'm running this on my own laptop and I don't have an external IP address. I'm inside my local area network. So it's just warning me that this is not going to work to sync from the public internet, and that's fine. I'm just testing it internally. So I'm going to ignore that error.
Got it.
So here are the 4. So there's basically 5 things that you do to your database to set up MirrorSync, and 4 of them are on this screen. So when I downloaded MirrorSync, so it says, if you did not already have a remote connection to the database hosted on FileMaker Server, open it now. I do already have that. I've got that open here. Make the following change to the task database running on that system. If you see a caution icon, hover over it with your mouse to see the warning message. So step 1, copy the MirrorSync table from the MirrorSync support database into this database. So when I downloaded MirrorSync, let me show you my download folder. Here's my download folder. So this is what I got when I double clicked that. I didn't mean to. Here's what comes with MirrorSync. This is the installer that I ran before. Here's a bunch of notes, documentation. Here's my Windows installer. What this is asking me to open up is this MirrorSync support database right here. So I'm going to open that up and I'm going to follow the instructions. So step 1 is copy the MirrorSync table from that database into this database. So let's jump over to there. I'm going to go into field definitions, find the MirrorSync table, copy it. I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to paste it. Feel like a cooking show.
I mean, they're not that different, honestly.
Take it out of the oven. So
let it rest.
Let it rest. You'll notice that I get a green check mark here as I do each one of these steps.
Oh, that's nice.
So that's giving you some positive feedback that the thing you're doing is the thing you're supposed to be doing. So step 2, there's a script folder named MirrorSync 6 from that script workspace. So I'm going to go copy and paste that. So let's jump over to here.
It's still going to be called MirrorSync 6, even though you're on MirrorSync 7, correct?
Yes, excellent point. I'm glad you reminded me to explain that. We thought about changing the name to MirrorSync 7, but it would have made it so that it would have made it very difficult to continue to work with the existing offline copies that people already have with MirrorSync 7.
Oh, okay.
So by keeping the script named the same thing, we make the migration process much simpler so that you can install MirrorSync 7 you can upgrade to MirrorSync 7 on your server without having to simultaneously get everybody to upgrade to new offline copies of their database. So that's why we do that.
Sense.
And thank you for asking, because I don't know if I would have remembered to explain that.
No, you're good. That's what I'm here for.
So I'm going to come into tasks. I'm going to paste that. Okay, that's done. Next step is rename the MirrorSync script to this. So I'm going to go here, MirrorSync 6. I'm going to rename it. I get my green check mark. In your database, edit the MirrorSync 6 script. Near the top of the script, find this step, set variable, and copy this URL and paste it in as the value. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to find that line. It's right here, line 6. Save my changes. Here's my check mark. Copy the MirrorSync layout contents from the MirrorSync support database, go to the existing MirrorSync layout and delete everything on it and replace it. So I'm going to jump over to my MirrorSync layout, layout mode, select all, copy. I'm going to come over to my task database, layout mode, MirrorSync, select all. I'm going to delete these extra parts that I don't need.
Mm-hmm.
And it just looks a little nicer if you tighten up the borders on here, so I'll do that.
Yes. Don't leave the layout large like a heathen.
Like a heathen. All right, so that looks nice.
There you
I've
go.
got all 4 green check marks. This is all finished. I don't need to do these steps again later. If I were to upgrade to a new version of MirrorSync, or if I wanted to add more tables or anything like that, I don't need to redo these steps. Okay, so I mentioned there are 4 or 5 steps. I did 4 of them. Here's the 5th step. This is actually the one that I usually skip when I'm demoing this because it's slightly tedious, but I only have like 4 or 5 tables, so it won't take me that long. Basically, what I need to do is for each table, I need to make sure I have these 3 things. I need a primary key, a creation timestamp, and a modification timestamp. And if I
Okay.
look at the starter solutions that come with FileMaker, they're all going to have a primary key, a creation timestamp, and a modification timestamp. So all of these starter solutions out of the box are pretty much set to work with MirrorSync. And probably, I'm guessing most of the people watching this video, I'm guessing that your database also has a primary key, a modification timestamp, and a creation timestamp. The names don't matter. They don't need to be named anything specific for MirrorSync. It'll find them. So I have them. So I've taken care of these. If you
Uh,
take,
does it need to be a UUID or
it does not need to be a UUID. MirrorSync supports serial numbers.
okay?
Um, the I think there's, I think increasingly FileMaker is moving to UUIDs. There are some parts of this that are a little bit simpler when you're using a UUID. And in particular, and I don't want to get into depth because this always turns into a hard thing to explain when I don't have somebody to talk to and get feedback from. But basically, the thing that you can run into problems with when you're using serial numbers is that if you have the serial number primary keys are visible to the users. So for instance, let's say that your primary key is a serial number and it's also visible as an invoice number or a check number or purchase order number or a work order number or anything like that. If that's the case, then you'll have some additional steps to do in MirrorSync, and we outline that in our documentation. The reason is because when you're using serial numbers, it's
Mm-hmm.
normal that when records get synced from one device to another device, those primary keys are going to change because they're going to assume the next number in the sequence in
Mm.
whatever database you're going to. MirrorSync is fine with that. It'll sync that fine. It'll keep all your relationships intact. Nothing is going
Mm-hmm.
to break. It's all going to work. But it's going to be very confusing to your users if they looked at invoice number 100 on the server and it's invoice number 150 on their offline copy. So
Yeah.
it's not that the problem is not that the sync will break. The problem is that your users will be confused. And so for that reason, we recommend having 2 separate fields, a serial number that's used for a primary key and a
Mm-hmm.
separate serial number that's used for the users to be able to see. And if you have it set up that way, then MirrorSync takes care of it, and those visible numbers that they can see stay the same between devices. If you're using a UUID, you probably already have it set up that way. No sane person would ever use a UUID as their invoice number. So so you're probably already doing it the right way if you're using a UUID. So it's not so much that UUIDs are good and serial numbers are bad, as
Mm-hmm.
much as if you're using UUIDs, you probably have it split into 2 fields, whereas it's quite common that if you're using serial numbers, you have 1 field doing both of those purposes, and you do need to split it into 2 fields just to be able to sync it.
Yep. Okay. That makes perfect sense, actually.
Um, Okay, and actually we talk about that right here. If you have any serial number fields in your solution that are visible, here's a section of our documentation that explains kind of how to deal with that
Mm-hmm.
and how to work that. Um, but what I do need to do is I need to create a new layout for each table that I'm going to sync. The name MirrorSync will work with any name, but I like using a sync underscore prefix on them because MirrorSync will automatically detect all your sync layouts if they all start off with some word that you identify. You don't need to put any fields on the layout. It's okay if they're all blank. So I'm going to just get it started right now. I'm going to start creating new layouts. So I'm going to create a new layout. I'm going to use assignees. and I'm going to name it sync assignees. Again, you can name it anything you want. I just use this because by having some consistent prefix, it makes the process, you can automate the process of finding which layouts you want to sync. So assignees, I'm going to name it sync assignees, finish, and I'm done with that one. So I just repeat that with each one. Sync assignments. And I know it's a little boring to watch me do this, but I did promise I was going to do every single
No,
step.
I appreciate that you do this, honestly, like I said, because that means people can watch this video and they can know exactly what they're doing.
Yep. And you'll notice that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not adding any fields to these. It's not going to hurt if I add fields. You know, if I wanted to just grab all these
Mm-hmm.
and stick them in here and use it for debugging purposes, that's fine. It's not going to mess anything up. But there's no requirement that you add fields on there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going. So I've done that step. Now we get into talking about how do logins work. When you run the sync, if you pick this option, which I generally do not recommend, then it will not prompt the user for a username and password. It'll use whatever username and password I set up in my previous screen when I set up my, remember where I put in my FileMaker database username and password?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It'll use that same FileMaker user. It won't tell the user what the FileMaker username and password are, but it'll use that username and password to log in, which is convenient because the user never needs to provide any credentials. Picking it this way is probably the better option. It will ask the FileMaker user for their credentials, but only one time, and it'll remember it after that. And then all the actions that they do, all the actions that we do in MirrorSync on the server will be done as that user. So like if you do get account name or anything like that, it'll be that user's name and not some generic shared name.
Yeah, so I mean, frankly, your users should also know what their client credentials are to log into
Yes,
FileMaker.
yes. We do have an option. I'm not going to demonstrate this today. We do have an option to either sync with an empty. This is assuming that you're going to sync with a copy of your task database. But let's say that the task database was enormous and you had 2,000 layouts and 3,000 scripts and 150 tables, and all you wanted was a very small little data collection file that people would take out on a phone to do like customer service satisfaction surveys. You could create a stripped down version of your file and sync with a separate mobile file, and you could host that on your server and pick that file here, and then have that kind of light version of your solution to sync with. And even if the names of the tables and fields don't exactly match, you'll get an opportunity to map those up later in the MirrorSync process. For today, I'm just going to sync with a copy of the task database, but I want everybody to know that is something you can do.
It's good to know, actually. Me and RC have a separate mobile file for our customer, so.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So this gets back. So remember I said if I name them all with a consistent prefix, I can just automate that. So by this, sync any layout starting with, it's going to just automatically pick sync assignees, sync assignments, sync attachments, sync tasks, etc.
Nice.
So I don't need to pick them. Oh, and by the way, on that topic, let's say that you later added another table to your thing. Let's say you added sync system settings.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even need to go into the MirrorSync configuration to add it. As long as you name it with the same prefix as all of your other things, MirrorSync will automatically detect it and just add it to the sync.
That's nice. That's really nice, actually.
We're trying to like get it so that users don't and developers don't have to come into this config client any more than absolutely necessary.
Makes perfect sense.
All right. So if you want to get emails when your users run syncs, you can put your email address here. You can pick if you want to get emails on failures or warnings, anytime that there's changes, detailed, you can get as much or as little few emails as you want.
There you go.
If you're going to have users connecting in to your FileMaker server from different time zones, you should pick yes here, and then you should read this section of the documentation. It basically talks about how to set up host modification timestamps. And that way, when we're looking for changes on the server, we'll look them up based on the timestamp that it was on the server that is modified, not the timestamp based on a user who might be in California or might be in New York or might be in London. And so if all of your users who access FileMaker server directly are in the same time zone as FileMaker server, just pick no here, and then you don't need to bother with host modification timestamps. Although it doesn't hurt, never hurts to set them up. It's just you can skip it if you know that everybody's in the same time zone.
That's good to know. Well, something I wouldn't even thought about, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, it's not a factor for the offline copies. I neglected to mention that. If you have users who are mobile and they have an offline copy and they're roaming all over the world,
Hmm.
doesn't create this problem because MirrorSync can detect their time zone and automatically adjust for it.
Hmm.
The only ones that you need to concern yourself with are if people are directly connected as a guest to FileMaker server, not syncing users, but connected network users
Got
at
it.
different time
Okay.
zones. Then you need to check that. You can pick which direction you're going to go. By default, we assume you want to sync in both directions. You can sync just from the hub to the spoke. You can sync just from the spoke to the hub. You can sync both. You can also uncheck this box that says same settings for all tables, and you could even say for, I make this a little wider.
Oh, you can customize how different tables will sync. That's cool.
Yeah, maybe assignees, for instance, you say, I don't want people to be able to change who's assigned to what. So that's a one way from the hub to the spoke. And maybe attachments, I don't want to take a bunch of time syncing container fields down to
Hmm.
everybody's mobile copy. So that one will just be uh, written from the spoke to the hub. And you can set all of these settings, primary key settings, field merging, conflict resolution, etc., can all be changed individually for each table. Or you can
Hmm.
check this box, same setting for all table, and whatever you pick here will apply to everything. So for primary key matching, we talked a little bit earlier about serial numbers versus UUIDs.
Hmm.
If you're using UUIDs, you should pick developer managed. Developer managed means MirrorSync is not going to MirrorSync is assuming that it's fine to just write the primary keys as they are from one device to another without renumbering them. Just take them exactly as they are and write them from here to there. You should pick MirrorSync managed if you are syncing serial numbers because those should change from one device to the other. If you wrote them exactly as they are from one device to the other, you get conflicts because different people would have different serial numbers representing the same serial number rather representing different records. So pick basically short version, developer managed UUID, MirrorSync managed serial number. If you have, by default, we sync everything on the table. We get every field, we sync it all. If you've got 800 fields and you say, I only need to sync 30 of them, then in that sync layout that I was showing you before, you could pick just certain fields,
Hmm.
put them on your sync layout, and then you would pick sync only fields in the layout. And now I'll sync only these 3 fields.
That's a nifty feature.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you've got some gigantic piece of text that you don't want to
Hmm.
sync.
Yeah.
Um, if you pick the sync all fields, it's just going to ignore this. It doesn't matter if you have them, if you have all of them, if you have none of them. If you
Hmm.
pick this, we ignore it and we just sync all the fields. Um,
Got it.
Field merging, we demonstrated conflict resolution the last time I was on. MirrorSync can if the same record is changed on multiple different devices and different fields are changed, the MirrorSync can optionally merge those changes together. So if you change the email address over here, but you change the first name on a different device, MirrorSync can merge those changes together. You can
Hmm.
optionally say don't merge, which runs us a little bit, makes your syncs a little bit faster, but will treat those as conflicts and then ask the user to resolve. And then when we get to conflict resolution,
Hmm.
if there is a conflict, how should we resolve the conflict? We've got 4 strategies. User picks is the one that we recommend for the most part. And in user
Hmm.
picks, the user sees a screen where they can see the fields on the left and the fields on the right, and they can pick which one they want to keep when the conflict happens.
Hmm.
Administrator wins is the same as user picks, but instead of trusting the users to do it on the device, the users just get told an administrator has been notified, try again later. The
Hmm.
admin gets an email, they click the link in the email, and they see the same color-coded web screen for modifying conflicts. You can pick most recent change wins if you never want to bother anybody with it, and you just say, hey, if you changed it at 2 o'clock and you changed it at 2:45, we assume you guys were probably talking to each other, and the one that
Hmm.
was made at 2:45 is the right one. And Hub always wins. I think is a terrible idea. I only did it because some people said they needed it. So I'm not even going to waste time talking about that.
Not even going to be acknowledged.
No, no,
Uh,
I'm just going to pretend that doesn't exist.
uh-huh. Out of curiosity, is there a way to like have like conflict be different per type of table? Or is it
Yep,
like, oh,
yep. So if I uncheck the same setting for all tables, I can say on assignees, I want the admin to pick. On
ah,
assignments, I
that's
want most
nice.
recent wins. One thing you can't do, I'm not going to pick Hub wins RFUs. One thing you can't do is you can't mix email administrator with user picks. So either the 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 administrator is going to resolve them or the user is going to resolve them. You can't have the admin resolve some conflicts and the user resolve certain other conflicts. So don't mix those two. But it's fine to pick mix between like user picks and most recent wins.
Good to know.
All right. So now MirrorSync is going to automatically detect your primary key, your modification timestamp, and your creation timestamp. If it picks it wrong for some reason, you can see all the timestamps and you can pick the one that you meant to pick. Same thing on the primary key. Sometimes something looks like a primary key, but it's not actually your primary key, and then you can come in here and override it with what your real primary key is. MirrorSync will read your relationship graph, and it'll see all of the fields that are being used as foreign keys, and it'll automatically pick them. It's helpful for MirrorSync to know about your foreign keys because it changes the order that we do the syncs in so that parent tables happen before child tables. And then we create this little interactive relationship graph that probably looks very familiar. It's not running in FileMaker. This is recreated from scratch to look like FileMaker.
That's nice.
Yeah. You know, just the more familiar it is, the better. But this lets you kind of just validate that, yes, tasks have many attachments, tasks have many assignments, and there are many assignments per assignee. So this was just a way to visually validate what you were seeing in the last screen. MirrorSync does support multi-file solutions. So if you're using the separation model or just you've migrated it from an old version of FileMaker, you can select additional databases here, and you can pick all the databases that go with this solution. And then when the user downloads it, they'll get a zip file that contains all the files together. Or if you're using our new MirrorSync launcher file that comes with MirrorSync 7, it'll download each of those files independently. So that is the MirrorSync process. Again, I'm getting the same error message that I got before saying, hey, you're not going to be able to sync from outside your network. I know that. I'm just going to continue. Your changes have been saved. To distribute offline copies to your users, use the download database button. You can also manually download copies to the FileMaker Server admin. So I'm done with the sync configuration. Now I want to make one development change, and then I'm going to start distributing this to my user, who is also me. So let me make this development change. So I'm going to go over to, let's go to task details, and let's make a little, so MirrorSync gets just run by this script. So all you need to do to run the script is to run the sync is to run the script. I think it's a little nicer if we have a button for it. So I'm just going to make just a very simple button right here.
Button. There you go. You got the little sync thing available to you.
It's very nice that FileMaker includes that. And the script you want to run is the MirrorSync 6 parenthesis and then the name that you named your configuration. You can't have multiple configurations. So for instance, let's say that you want to have one configuration that syncs everything bidirectional, but then you have a different configuration that's maybe just one way from the spoke to the hub for 3 critical tables that you modify often. You could make, multiple configurations and have multiple different buttons that would behave differently from each other. So done with that.
I hadn't even thought about that. That'd be cool. Like you want to just like upload the information and not really necessarily download anything.
Yeah. If you want your users to know, hey, this is going to run fast because it's just pushing your changes to the server, and then you can click this other button when you want to like do a full thing. I should get an error message when I click on this. Let's try it. Yeah, and this is exactly what I expected. Synchronization with FileMaker client must be initiated from the client device. Right now, remember, I'm on the hosted file. It doesn't make sense for it to sync with anything because it is the server. But I just wanted to make sure that script was connected correctly so that when I get my offline copy, that should actually do something good instead of giving me an error. But I'm done doing the configuration. I am going to click the download database button. You can create a link or you can do a download. The create a link should be really now that I'm saying it out loud, I've never even said this to myself before, but seeing it here right now doing this demo with you, I realize it's stupid that we have the download link as the default, because what is really the thing that you should be using is create link. Create link is going to create a URL that you can send to your users to get a copy of the file, which is a lot better than just downloading the file and then having to like Dropbox it or send it as a giant email attachment.
Yes.
Or something like that. So it's much better to just send them a URL. So when you create the URL, you've got a choice. Use full copy if you want all your users to have everything on the server. If everybody should have everything, use full copy. Use empty clone if you want to, and I don't know if I'm going to get into talking about filtering records, but MirrorSync has the capability to filter records so that each user only gets the records that are relevant to them.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the way you want to sync, you should use empty clone. In this case, my database is tiny, there's no security, so I'm going to say full copy. When you run your initial sync, the initial sync can sometimes take a long time, especially if you pick empty clone and you've got thousands of records that need to be inserted into that empty clone. So in that case, if you pick server, that initial sync, which might take, let's just say 30 minutes, it'll be 30 minutes, but it might be 20 minutes if it was running on FileMaker server instead of running on like a slower iPhone or iPad. So picking the server can just speed up that initial sync. In this case, my database is so small that it doesn't matter. I'm just going to run my sync from FileMaker Pro. So I'm going to click OK. It puts a download URL on my clipboard. I'll show you what I mean. If I go to my browser and I put in this URL,
There
just
you go.
downloaded a copy of my file right there. So there's an offline copy. I'm going to delete this. All right, so I've got this URL on my clipboard. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to send myself, I'm going to, let's see, it's my email. I'm going to create a new email. I'm going to send it to all of my users. So there, I've sent them a link that they can click. I'm going to show you a new feature in MirrorSync 7, which is this launcher file. And Margaret, I know you were on the thing when we talked about this launcher file.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to open this launcher file. And this is a new feature in MirrorSync 7. I'm going to take the same URL that I had before, and I'm going to put it into this launcher file. And then I'm going to also send this launcher file as an attachment in the email. And I'm doing this because I want to show you what the difference is between sending the URL versus sending the launcher file. So I'm going to send this. Actually, I'm going to send it to my demo account. Okay, and now I'm going to jump back to sharing my iPhone screen. If I can. So here's the email that I just got. Download this offline copy. If I click that, I see the link on the top, and I see the
file.
The file on the bottom. So let me show you the link first. This is how it worked with previous versions of MirrorSync. And you can still do this with MirrorSync 7 as well, but there's a better way now. I want to show you the old way, and then I'll show you the new way. So the old way is I click this link. It opens up in Safari. Do you want to download? I'm going to say yes. And by the way, let's see. I'm counting my clicks now. So I did 1 click. Download is 2 clicks. It downloaded it. Now there's a little downloads icon that I have to click. That's 3 clicks. Now I click downloads. That's 4 clicks. Now I'm going to pick the task thing. There's still leftover from my practice session. So, or task 2, I think is the newer one. I've lost track. I think that's 5 clicks. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Now I click the little share icon. That's 6. And I click FileMaker Pro. That's 7. And now it pops open in FileMaker, and I can log in.
Got it.
And here's my task database. So that worked. It didn't. It worked. I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw this file away because I want to show you the other way to do it. So let's get out of here and jump back to the email. And so now I'm going to show you with the launcher file. I click this launcher file. That's 1 click. I pick FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Go. That's 2 clicks. It downloads it, and it pops it open, and I'm done.
Oh, it automatically opens it.
Yes.
Nice.
So that was 2 clicks instead of like 7 or.
And also having to figure out where the download folder is. Do you know how hard time I'd have to explain to someone where the download folder is on their phone? Because I guarantee they've never used it before.
Yeah, I find that incredibly frustrating that Apple has made iOS make you jump through all those hoops. But now with this launcher file, I think just about anybody will be able to handle clicking on the icon of attachment and then saying open FileMaker Go. So big improvement there.
Absolutely. That's an enormous improvement.
Let's see if our sync runs. So I've got my button for the sync. I'm going to click this. It's going to ask, what do I call this thing? This doesn't change anything. It's just descriptive for log messages and status messages and things like that. So I'm just going to leave the default there. I'm going to click OK. It's going to ask me about my password. Remember, we talked about this, is that since we picked use the client credentials, it's going to one time ask me to log in and
Mm-hmm.
basically re-enter my password. I'll do that one time here, and it'll remember that from now on. And then it runs a sync. There's no changes. And hey there, Margaret. So so it's a little bit hard to demo this because with Zoom I can't easily switch back and forth
Mm-hmm.
between. So I'm just going to do a few things here on the phone and then I'll switch back. So I'm going to create a new record, created on phone. I'm going to edit the hey and change it to hello.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm just going to, I changed a record. I added a record. I changed hi to hello. I added created
Mm-hmm.
on phone. I'm going to give up on deleting that record and I'm going to run my sync. I don't have my button, my handy button on the screen, so I'm just going to run it from the scripts menu, demonstrating again that MirrorSync is just a
Mm-hmm.
script, and you can call it from anywhere you want. And on that topic, here, and it added one record to FileMaker Server, and it modified one. You can see FileMaker Hub
Mm-hmm.
Node Sync tasks on FileMaker Server, Jesse Local. I need to maybe simplify. I have a bunch of stuff there that helps me with debugging that I maybe should get rid of. But at the end, it says added one and modified one, and it took 2 seconds.
You can always have an option, like you get the user-specific messages and then developer messages.
That's a good idea. I should make that a configuration setting. So let me go on Zoom and jump back to my laptop screen. So let me jump over to FileMaker.
Ooh, there's a hello.
There is a hello, and there's created on iPhone. So that sync worked. And,
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be too shocking. But but that sync worked. And if this, so now we're looking at the changes that I made on my phone on the server. I'm not going to demonstrate it because it just takes so long to switch back and forth. But if I were to
Mm-hmm.
make changes or conflicts or deletions or anything like that, and then go back to my phone and sync, those would all show up on my phone. And it's fully relational. So if I were to modify related attachments and things like that, that would all work. Again, if you anybody watching this video should watch the previous one that we did on Friday. So if you search for that video, you'll see a lengthier demo of the actual syncing process, adding, editing, deleting, conflicting, merging, that kind of stuff.
Yes, and there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with it.
Right.
Uh, we do have some questions if you
This is
are.
a perfect time for questions because I was about to jump to FileMaker starting point, but that's kind of
Yes, that's actually one of the questions. Someone is like, FMSP has scripts and layouts pre-set up? Yes.
yeah, that's what
There.
I'm going to demo next.
But another question we had is each FM Pro slash Go is a spoke.
Yes, correct. Each one is a spoke. So that you've got your FileMaker server as your hub, and all your FileMaker Pro or Go devices are spokes. Remember, we also support server-server sync. So there could be a case where you had FileMaker server as a hub and then a different FileMaker server as a spoke. You could have FileMaker server as the hub and multiple FileMaker servers as the spoke. You could have MySQL as you could have FileMaker server as the hub and MySQL as the spoke, multiple MySQLs, multiple DynamoDBs,
Yes,
anything
there can
along those
only be
lines.
one hub though,
But
right?
only one hub, correct.
Mm-hmm.
One really great use case, I think, for MirrorSync is building high volume web applications. So
Mm-hmm.
in that scenario, you would have FileMaker Server as your hub, some other web-friendly database as your spoke, like MySQL or Dynamo or SQL Server. You sync FileMaker to that other database, and then you build your web application on top of that other database, knowing that any changes that get made from users on the web will sync back and forth to FileMaker. You could take FileMaker down, you could upgrade it, you could do anything you wanted, and it's not going to break your website. So that's a really good use case for MirrorSync. So let's move on. So I'm done with tasks. Now I'm going to show you what I just did, except I'm going to do it with FileMaker starting point. And it's going to go pretty fast because we've already done all the setup work with FileMaker starting point. So let's go ahead
Mm-hmm.
and, oh, my email opened in the wrong window here. Let me go back to this window here. So I've got my download URL from FMSP, confused about FileMaker, we can help with that. Download current releases. I'm going to get starting point for the US. Okay, so here's FM starting point. I'm going to open this up and just give it a password and upload it to the server. And this already has the FM REST privilege enabled, so we don't need to mess with that.
Mm-hmm.
I will go ahead and do the sync button again.
Sync button.
Oops. Undo, undo. So these scripts already come with FileMaker starting point. So now I've got my sync button. And now let's upload this to FileMaker server. Okay. And now we're ready to set up so now we're going to set up a second configuration. So we still got our tasks database configured. We're going to create a new configuration.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to name it FMSP. And I'm going to go a little faster this time because I've talked through all these things before.
We know what we're all looking at, yeah.
Yeah. Same warning about not having a network connection. I do need to do two things, which is I need to rename the script and I need to copy and paste the URL because this is going to be specific to whatever I decide to call it.
It can't be pre-configured.
Yes. So I'm going to go into my scripts. I'm going to find my MirrorSync script. I'm going to rename it. And then I'm going to copy this URL to my specific server, replace that. Got all my green check marks. So I skipped all of the other steps.
Mm-hmm.
Skipped all of these steps. We've already got the layouts all created. This is all good. We've already got all these sync layouts created, so we can just keep this the default, sync anything starting with sync underscore.
Mm-hmm. Now the server's just catching up.
Yeah, now we've got a lot more layouts in FM starting point than we do in the tasks database. This is new.
Oh.
Why is it that I can do this demo over and over and over again when I'm not on a Zoom call?
It knows. It knows. No, seriously, there's some little gremlin that knows when you're doing demos live in front of an audience, and then it, magically makes problems happen.
But what's going on here is that for each of these layouts, MirrorSync is going to the layout, it's creating a record, it's setting each individual field to a test value to see if that field is writable or not. And then it's using that to auto-detect which fields are the creation timestamps, which fields are the modification timestamps, which fields are primary keys, which fields are writable and not writable. I think it's hilarious that I just did that twice and it worked the second time.
It just had to give you a bug the first time so you knew who was boss.
Just keep me on my toes. Just give me just a tiny bit of panic. You know, a little panic every day is maybe a little healthy.
Keeps your heart going.
Come on, really? So in this case, remember this is it. It's picking it unchecked same settings for all tables automatically because it detected that some of these layouts, specifically this calendar layout, is using a serial number instead of a UUID. So MirrorSync detected that and it switched that one to be MirrorSync managed. Remember we talked about MirrorSync managed is serial numbers, developer managed UUIDs. So MirrorSync figured out, hey, this primary key doesn't look like a UUID, it looks like a serial number. So for that specific table, it set it to be MirrorSync managed. And then it auto-detected all of our primary keys, our modification timestamps, our creation timestamps. We've already done the work of creating a modification host timestamp, so you don't need to worry about the time zone question. It's already set to work with or without separate time zones. Reads all of our foreign keys. Here's our kind of simulated relationship graph. I'll leave that to somebody who knows FM starting point much better than I do, make sure it's accurate.
I'll say it's accurate.
All right. It's not a multi-file solution, so I don't need to pick any additional databases.
Nope.
Same message as usual about the network. And that's done. So that was the whole FileMaker starting point configuration process. That's finished.
Yes.
So now I'm just going to do the same thing I did before, download database, create a link, full copy. This time I'm not going to mess with the iPhone. I'm just going to do it on the laptop. Just in case it's helpful to anybody watching this video, this process is the same on an iPhone, an iPad, or a FileMaker Pro on a laptop, Mac or Windows. The scripts are the same. The buttons are the same. Everything works the same. I think some people are surprised sometimes to hear that you can even use MirrorSync on a laptop. They just think of it as an iPhone or iPad solution, but it's actually quite useful to use it on a laptop. My wife does it that way when we're traveling. all of our internal bookkeeping stuff is in a FileMaker solution that I've created. And so she just syncs that and takes a copy of it with her on a plane, and wherever we go, she has access to it.
There you go. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, yeah. So here's my offline copy of Starting Point. So I've got my hosted version. Oops. I've got my hosted version of Starting Point on the left. I can tell because when I go to the file menu, the save a copy is grayed out. That tells me that this is hosted on FileMaker server. And if I go to contacts, I've got one contact there. This is my mobile copy. I can tell because the save a copy as is enabled. That tells me this is not hosted on FileMaker server. And I'm going, everything should be the same. The sync should be really quick. So I'm going to click my little button. I'm going to give a descriptive name. I'm going to enter my password, again, one time only. And it's doing that initial sync. Remember, we talked about the initial sync is a little slower because it's got to check everything, not just recently modified things, and compare all of them. So that's exactly what it's doing right now. So that finished. That took 21 seconds. Let's run it again. Now this time there's no changes. And actually, I was expecting this to get faster. Sometimes it takes a few tries before it gets like to full speed. All right. So now we're getting to like 6 seconds. Let's create a new record. This is Mr. Offline. And let's go ahead and create Miss Online. Use my handy dandy button. Okay, and that took 6 seconds, and that added one to both. Now we've got Margaret online and Jesse offline on both copies.
There you go.
There you go. So that's the whole setup process for MirrorSync. You can see that it goes really quick with FileMaker Starting Point. I hardly had to do anything. I just needed to basically tell it my server's URL and whatever I decided to name the configuration, but everything else is already done for you. Other than, I did add a little button with the sync thing on there, but that's not hard at all. So do we have any questions?
Not at the moment, but I think you've caught them all pretty much as they've come up, and you've explained this really cohesively.
Terrific.
So
I think we're just about at an hour. I had joked around with you beforehand. I said I thought 15 minutes. Somehow I managed to always use an hour plus of time.
Well, a reminder everyone that the what baseline version of this is free. Like you can have one client, I think.
Yes, absolutely. One device.
One device. So go try it. There is a reason that we put all the effort into making it baseline and FMSP. It's because it is a fantastic product. Does this work similar with any OAuth?
Okay, good question. So OAuth will work fine for the sync part of this. So you can use your OAuth credentials for the syncing. However, it will not work for opening your offline mobile copy. So you would need to, like you can't use OAuth on FileMaker Pro. You can only use it on FileMaker Server. So you've got to have some way to open the database on an iPhone or an iPad, and OAuth is not the answer. So you're going to need to have regular non-OAuth accounts in your database for people to get the file open on their device. But then for the actual sync, that will work with external authentication. So I don't have a perfect answer for you there. I know what everybody would love the answer to be is, we would all love the answer to be, yes, you can just, use the same credentials that you're using for your OAuth or your Active Directory server and it'll just work. But that's just not something that FileMaker Go or Pro supports. So there's no way for MirrorSync to support it.
So as follow up, you'll need two users, one local and one other OAuth then?
Yes. And actually, I answered that too quickly. It'll definitely work with Active Directory. With OAuth, I have never tried syncing with an OAuth account, and I suspect that it would not work because OAuth requires a web browser login interaction, and MirrorSync can't simulate that on between the server. What I heard the question as, and now I'm replaying it in my mind, I realize I didn't answer the question that was asked, is this will work with Active Directory. So if you're using Active Directory where you're using a traditional username and password, then it will work to have one local account and one Active Directory account. I don't believe, and again, I would need to test this to be sure, but I don't believe that OAuth is going to work because of that requirement for a human being to actually log in with their web browser. You can, in that case, that might be a case where you might consider using that choice to say use hub credentials. And then all users would share the same username and password for the connection between MirrorSync and FileMaker Server. You would still need to, that doesn't totally solve the problem because you would still need to have some username and password that everybody could use to open the mobile file. But once they've opened the mobile file to run the actual sync, you could instruct MirrorSync to use the same credentials for all users that you configured as the hub credentials. That might be the best way if you were planning on using OAuth.
There you go. Works with Entra ID that is now Azure Active Directory? Question mark.
Again, haven't specifically tested that, but I believe that if it works like a traditional Active Directory server, and if you can log in, I haven't tested it with Entra, but basically, if your login process works by just entering a username and password within FileMaker Pro, then yes, that will work. Again, subject to the same things I said before. You still need, I don't have, you're on your own for figuring out how users get the mobile file open, because the Entra Azure Active Directory is not going to work on an iPad or a laptop or an iPhone. So that's something that you'll need to solve on your own. But once they get logged in and they go to run the sync, then yes, that can work with their credentials if it matches what's in Active Directory.
There you go. Is another server considered one device?
Server to servers are priced differently. So let me jump to the. I forgot to talk about pricing. That's a really important question.
Oh yes, actually, I should have brought that up.
So let's talk about devices. So devices start at $7.50 per month for one or more devices. And the prices start going down as you hit higher volume tiers when you get to like 100 devices or more. We do have special pricing for 200 devices and 1,000 devices. So give us a call if you're using that many devices, and we'll get you pricing for that. But this is for FileMaker Pro or Go, not for server. And remember, the first device is free. So if you needed if you needed a total of 5 devices, for instance, you would take the free one, and then you would add 4 more at $7.50 per device. So your monthly cost would be $30 per month for those 5 devices. That's for client to server. For server to server, you would, instead of adding devices, you add configurations, and you pick this option here. So you might pick FileMaker Server to non-FileMaker Server. And actually, we've simplified the price, so everything is now $115 per month, no matter whether it's FileMaker Server to FileMaker Server, FileMaker Server to non-FileMaker Server, anything like that. Those are all $115 per month per pair of servers. So it's not, so, if you were syncing FileMaker Server to FileMaker Server, that's $115. If you were syncing FileMaker Server to 2 other FileMaker servers for a total of 3 servers, that would be $230 per month.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I totally forgot to talk about pricing.
No, that I also spaced. So, yeah, this has been great. Thank you for coming back, Jesse.
Yeah, it's good to be on, Margaret. It was really fun catching up with you.
Yes, absolutely. And then a very impressive product that's been well demonstrated. Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
All
Seriously.
right.
Cool.
Thank
I think
you.
with that being said, I'm going to wrap us up. So thank you very much, Jesse. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will catch you who come back here for tomorrow.
I will see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
know.